Before we dive into the real tea, there are a few things that absolutely cannot be ignored. Today's spotlight belongs to Remy Ma, but somehow her estranged husband, Papoose, has managed to slide right back into the conversation after making a move that has people talking. And honestly, it's the timing that makes this whole thing look suspicious. It almost feels like he watches every move Remy makes, yet still refuses to fully move on, finalize the divorce, or let her enjoy a win without some kind of response. So here's the question everyone is asking. While Cardi B was publicly showing love to Remy Ma during the Am I the Drama tour, why was Papoose suddenly reposting Cardi B concert clips from a platform he reportedly had issues with for years? That alone had people raising eyebrows. Then came the push to turn Win Records into Win Records Network, a name that sounds awfully close to the direction Remy has been building. And now, out of nowhere, there is talk of expanding into entertainment content, boxing coverage, and several other ventures. Wait a minute. Wasn't this supposed to be a record label focused on music? Weren't artists supposed to be dropping records, performing shows, and building careers? That's exactly why people have questions. Outside of a small festival appearance still months away, where is all this activity everyone keeps hearing about? I've been watching Papoose's moves for a while, and one pattern keeps showing up. Pay attention to what he doesn't do. He never publicly steps up to defend the woman he's currently involved with. 2 diss records have already surfaced aimed at both him and Claressa. Yet he stays far away from the microphone. And honestly, he probably knows exactly why. Going directly at his wife in a rap battle could create consequences that would flip the entire narrative overnight. It would open doors that could never be shut again. So instead of direct confrontation, what people keep seeing are subtle messages, indirect reactions, and carefully timed posts. Every time Remy Ma creates attention through a performance, a viral moment, or a major appearance, something else suddenly appears from Papoose's side. It's almost like a reminder of old achievements. The timing is what keeps people talking. And speaking of momentum, Remy has been getting plenty of it lately thanks to her collaboration with French Montana and Max B. The remix has been gaining traction, and many listeners believe Remy stepped onto the track with confidence and completely stole the show. The message seemed obvious. Life kept moving, success kept growing, and the energy shifted in her favor. What stood out most was the attitude behind the lyrics. The verse carried the idea that she's thriving, evolving, and staying right at the center of the conversation. It also appeared to reference promises made, warnings ignored, and situations unfolding exactly the way she expected. Then there are the personal issues that continue fueling online discussion. Questions about belongings left behind, unresolved family matters, and long-standing tensions keep resurfacing. Meanwhile, public comments and social media posts only add more confusion to an already messy situation. That's why so many people keep asking the same question. Where is the consistency? At the end of the day, all this attention surrounding Remy Ma, French Montana, and Max B creates even more contrast. If relationships had remained positive, maybe certain invitations, appearances, and collaborations would still be happening today. But according to the narrative, many supporters believe years of disrespect, public drama, and ongoing conflict changed everything. Remy repeatedly warned people to stop bringing her name into situations, whether directly or indirectly. Those warnings were ignored, and the back and forth continued. Eventually, every action creates a reaction. Now that Remy is enjoying another viral moment, the responses from the other side feel noticeably different. Claressa may be posting training videos and focusing on boxing, but critics argue those clips do little to change the conversation dominating social media. The biggest challenge is that responding in the same arena as Remy would require an entirely different skill set. And that's where the debate gets interesting. Because while everyone seems ready to talk, not everyone is equipped to compete on the same stage. That's the part people simply cannot stop discussing. So what happened next? Well, things got interesting when Papoose jumped onto his Instagram stories and started sharing content that instantly caught attention. He was tagging names like Busta Rhymes, Swizz Beatz, DJ Scratch, Joey Badass, and several others while reposting the New York Knicks anthem that dropped back in 2025. And I have to ask what a lot of people are probably wondering. Why does it always feel like Papoose ends up on the remix instead of being part of the original record from day one? That's a conversation for another day, but the timing here is impossible to ignore. To me, this feels less like a random repost and more like a reaction to the buzz surrounding Remy Ma's appearance on French Montana's remix. Think about it. The song arrives at a moment when New York is completely locked into one of the biggest stories in the city, with the Knicks dominating headlines and excitement reaching another level. The visuals appear to be filmed around Madison Square Garden. The energy is high, and everyone is leaning into the moment. You've got custom jackets being showcased, celebrity appearances, exclusive merchandise, and major personalities helping push the movement forward. Even notable figures were reportedly showing support for the limited edition gear and championship-themed designs. Then suddenly, here comes Papoose with his own response, and people immediately notice the timing. That's why some viewers see it as a subtle attempt to redirect attention. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's exactly how it looks. If there's frustration over records not getting the traction expected, even with bigger collaborations attached, then just say that openly. What makes it stand out is the pattern. Every time someone else seems to be having a moment, there always appears to be an effort to insert another storyline into the conversation. And whether people agree or disagree, that's what keeps the criticism alive. Let's be real for a second. This doesn't exactly project the image of someone who is completely unbothered. In fact, it feels like the exact opposite. The reactions, the posts, and the timing all create the impression that certain developments are striking a nerve, and that's exactly why people keep watching. That's exactly why social media keeps analyzing every single move. People notice when actions stop matching the public narrative. And right now, that's precisely what many believe they're seeing. Here's what a lot of people expected. There was a widespread assumption that once certain allegations, stories, and controversies became public, Remy Ma's career would suffer a major setback. The belief was that opportunities would vanish, industry support would dry up, and the momentum she spent years building would suddenly come to a halt. Some probably assumed she would struggle to recover both professionally and personally. But that's not how things played out at all. Instead of disappearing, she kept moving forward and stayed firmly in the conversation. Rather than backing down, Remy appeared to face the criticism head-on. The message seemed simple: survive the storm now and address everything when the timing is right. That's what made the situation so surprising to many observers, because despite all the drama, speculation, and public discussion, the story didn't end the way some people expected. If anything, it opened the door to an entirely new chapter. Another thing that raised eyebrows was the fact that Papoose remained around through much of the controversy. Even after details started making their way into public discussion, questions continued about what was really happening behind closed doors. Claims, denials, and rumors kept surfacing, especially regarding tensions involving Easy the Block captain. Yet despite all the noise, the situation remained far more complicated than many originally believed. For a lot of observers, that complexity became impossible to ignore. There were allegations involving past infidelity, long-buried rumors, and stories that resurfaced years later. Some conversations even revived old reports involving an alleged love child controversy that quickly disappeared from headlines. Through all of those accusations, disputes, and public disagreements, people continued asking why the relationship dynamic appeared unchanged for so long. According to various reports and allegations, financial issues, household responsibilities, and other personal matters also became part of the discussion. Whether every claim is true or not, one thing remains certain: the public stays fascinated by every new twist in this ongoing saga. Apparently, before Remy Ma released those text messages exposing Pap and Claressa Shields, Fat Joe revealed there had actually been a large family-style dinner where everyone ended up in the same room. At least on the surface, it looked like things behind the scenes between Remy Ma, Pap, and others were beginning to calm down, especially after the Easy the Block captain situation had already exploded. From the outside looking in, it genuinely appeared they might be moving towards some kind of reconciliation, almost as if a path was forming for them to become a functioning married couple again once Pap stopped pushing the victim narrative online. But reality turned out to be much messier than it appeared. And that's where everything allegedly started falling apart. According to what happened next, Pap was still being dishonest behind the scenes while presenting the image that everything was stable with his wife. Remy eventually discovered something in a completely unexpected way, learning while he was asleep that he had been on a phone call with none other than Claressa Shields, someone who was allegedly presenting herself as a friend to Remy Ma while asking questions about styling, tracking her daily activities, monitoring what she watched, what she was doing, and how she was moving online. She allegedly called her sis, interacted with her posts, and publicly showed support while reportedly being involved with Pap in a completely different capacity behind the scenes. Once that situation finally came to light, many people felt they suddenly understood what had been happening all along, especially when Remy Ma started doing those live sessions. Looking back, the message behind them seemed much clearer. Still, plenty of people online labeled her bitter and accused her of overreacting, acting as though she was simply emotional. But from her perspective, she wanted him gone. She had reportedly wanted him out of the house for quite some time because she was exhausted by the entire situation. She also understood that Pap cared deeply about protecting his public image. And that's where many believe the real issue started becoming visible. Pap's image became connected to someone who was constantly online, highly reactive, and frequently involved in internet arguments, allegedly operating multiple burner accounts. According to critics, that person couldn't stay away from social media drama and repeatedly inserted themselves into conversations that only escalated tensions. The comments, reactions, and ongoing disputes eventually spilled into real-world spaces, particularly at boxing and MMA events where confrontations would heat up despite having nothing to do with the sports themselves. Over time, petitions and backlash reportedly began building, and at least one investigation was even mentioned in connection with the controversy. Fast forward to today, and it's been a couple of years since all of this first surfaced. Meanwhile, Remy's platform, the Remy Network, has continued performing strongly while gaining traction as a free streaming-style app. It has steadily grown, attracting millions of views despite still being relatively new and continuing to build its infrastructure. There aren't traditional commercials in the way people typically expect, but the content keeps drawing attention and engagement. At the same time, Pap may have believed Remy would eventually lose momentum, but that simply hasn't happened. In fact, Remy has remained highly visible, even appearing around major cultural moments associated with events like the Super Bowl. She has continued booking performances, staying active professionally, and maintaining a strong presence in entertainment. Reports also suggest she could be preparing to launch her own talk show on her platform completely on her own terms, along with additional projects including a second Lifetime film expected to release soon. She already sparked major discussion with her release, Why You Fin Lying?, which many viewed as a direct response aimed at shutting down ongoing commentary and media discussion surrounding her name. The message seemed crystal clear: enough is enough. It appeared directed toward various media personalities and platforms that continued discussing her situation. Despite that, the conversation hasn't slowed down. People continue stirring the pot, speculating, and pushing the narrative forward. In response, Remy has continued addressing things her own way through content, music, and public statements. Meanwhile, Pap's latest move, reposting music he previously appeared on in the past, feels to many people like an obvious attempt to pull attention back toward himself instead of the growing momentum surrounding Remy Ma's current success. But here's the thing, that strategy doesn't appear to be working the way it was probably intended. The more attention Remy receives, the more people seem to tune into her work, especially her collaboration with French Montana on the remix. Instead of slowing down, everything appears to be gaining even more momentum. Pap may have believed certain moves would stop that energy, but based on what we're seeing, that simply hasn't happened. Remy herself recently posted about how well the track is performing, particularly on YouTube, where it continues trending strongly in the music category. She's encouraging supporters to watch the video because it's still climbing, still generating attention, sitting high on trending charts, and continuing to build momentum with every passing day. And that's where things really start getting interesting. Remy Ma even responded after receiving praise from MC Lyte. Her response was simple but powerful: when your idols say it, it just hits different. And honestly, that may be exactly what triggered the latest reaction. Remy didn't just casually acknowledge the compliment. About 12 hours ago, she posted a full Instagram-style tribute highlighting her performance on the record and showing appreciation in a very intentional way. Then, almost immediately afterward, here comes Pap. Roughly 10 hours later, he's suddenly making moves of his own. To many observers, it looked like an attempt to redirect the conversation and steal some of the spotlight from the moment. The problem is that people aren't really buying into that narrative. The audience is going to keep streaming regardless. I've even seen comments claiming the remix is already getting radio rotation. And honestly, it wouldn't be surprising if clubs have already added it to their playlists as well. The song appears to be everywhere. That's why some people find it strange how often Claressa Shields and Pap seem completely locked in on everything Remy Ma does. Critics argue that every time Remy scores a win, there appears to be an effort to redirect attention elsewhere. And according to many observers, that's exactly why Remy seems finished entertaining the drama. This is the reason people keep saying she's moved beyond it. Now let's make one thing clear. This isn't about defending Claressa Shields as the alleged mistress. That's not the point here. What many people believe this really comes down to is Pap's ego and the reality that he currently doesn't have a lane capable of competing with what Remy Ma is doing musically. He simply isn't operating at the same level right now. And despite what some people try to suggest, it has nothing to do with age. That's what critics believe may be fueling the frustration. Some even argue that Pap believed aligning himself with the visibility and attention surrounding Claressa Shields would somehow elevate his own rap career. But according to that narrative, things didn't work out that way. Instead, people now see him promoting older records and past features that never created major buzz in the first place, all while attempting to redirect attention away from Remy Ma's growing momentum. And that's exactly what critics continue pointing out. From the outside looking in, many viewers say it feels forced, reactive, and calculated rather than natural. And honestly, a lot of people don't seem impressed by it. What makes the situation even more intense is the way it's being interpreted publicly. Many believe this has less to do with strategy and more to do with ego because when they look at the bigger picture, they see someone struggling to remain relevant while standing next to a partner whose success continues growing. That's an incredibly difficult narrative to escape once it starts spreading online, especially when the timing repeatedly lines up in ways people consider suspicious. There's also the long-standing claim that jealousy may have played a role in how everything unfolded. Supporters point to repeated patterns of behavior and moments they believe reinforce that argument. Some even suggest there were attempts to humble Remy Ma through personal conflict and public tension, although those claims remain part of ongoing speculation and allegations. Then there's another layer entirely. Moments where Remy reportedly refused to participate in certain appearances or gestures after allegedly discovering additional issues involving trust and loyalty. And that brings this story right back to the complicated intersection where music, relationships, reputation, and public perception all collide. Because at this point, every move gets analyzed, every post gets dissected, and every reaction becomes another chapter in a saga that clearly shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon.